This is Jessica Webster.
And this is Sam Pogue of the Fitness Break Room podcast. Sit back, take a well-deserved break, and learn about the journey that helps shape the most successful fitness professionals in the industry today.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fitness Break Room podcast. I'm your host, Sam Pogue, and I'm sitting down with my buddy, Matt Kite, master trainer for D1 Sports, as well as a member of the training panel. Thanks for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Sam. I'm just glad to be back in Austin and hang out with you, man.
Matt's a longtime Longhorn. Came down to watch the Longhorns play Maryland, and that's all we're gonna say about that. Because I don't need any riots getting upheld when this finally launches. So I blurted off a bunch of different shit about your name and what you do.
Yeah.
What does all that mean?
So, D1 master trainer, what my job is to do is to go in and help new coaches coming into D1 facilities around the country get certified up and being able to train all of our athletes from 7 years old all the way up to 70. If they're the adult member, Mm-hmm. So going through the certification process of knowing how we train the D1 way and just getting that coach ready. Yeah, we also train the head coaches at each facility and making sure that our product and our program around the country is pretty streamlined.
Awesome. And for the people out there listening who are maybe new to the industry or haven't quite heard of it, what is D1?
Yeah, so D1 sports training, you can hear this a lot. It's called the place for the athlete. It was named D1 because of the experience that Will Bartholomew had. He's our CEO. In his D1 experience at Tennessee, he loved his training experience with his coaches there so much that it motivated him when he blew his knee out during his tryouts for the NFL. He decided, I'm going to go start, doing what I love, and it was what he fell in love doing at his college at Tennessee. And so he started training athletes to get ready for a Division I program like he was training at the Division I school.
Oh, wow.
So that's the whole philosophy, the whole idea was he had the well-coached coaches. They had great backgrounds, and they were training the way that nobody else was training, right? I mean, because all the good coaches are going to these, D1 schools and putting in their efforts into these athletes. So he thought, how can we bring that experience that he had that elevated him and his teammates, how can we bring that to the public? And not only to the public, how can we bring that to the youth and get them ready to be D1? Not that every athlete that comes through our doors is going to be a D1 athlete, but we're going to train like that, and we're going to have that expectation, and we're also going to build character doing it.
That's awesome. And was that a route, like how did you end up at D1?
Man, long story short, I was training in Dallas at Michael John's Performance, and a friend of mine said, hey, there's a new company out of the Southeast. I mean, they're based out of Tennessee, but they're coming to Texas. They already have a facility in Abilene, and they're opening one right down the road from you. And they're looking for some, high energetic coaches. It's still a young company, so if you want to get involved, like now's the time to go and see if you can, not only learn from them, but be a part of the growth. And, one of my mentors, Donnie May, he was the first thing he told me, Donnie over at Texas, he said, Matt, you should always try to follow opportunity, not necessarily guaranteed, stability and money and all that kind of stuff. He's like, go where you see opportunity, go where you see somewhere where you can grow, but also help grow somebody else. So took that, and it was definitely taking a part-time job first, but it grew into so many other opportunities in these past 3 years that, words can't even describe all the experiences that I've had.
Yeah. So let's back up a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
A lot of our audience are people like looking to get into the fitness industry, looking to get into training. A lot of people want to train athletes. A lot of people look at it and it's like, oh, LaDainian Tomlinson and Jason Witten own your facility. Like, you must get to train all the Cowboys and all these like running backs, which is cool. Like, don't get me wrong, it's fun to work with a cool athlete, but it took a long time to get there. But
right.
B, it also was more than just like you walking through the door and like all of a sudden I get to go train athletes. Like, there's a journey that goes with it.
Oh, absolutely.
Can you walk us through that journey in terms of how you got to even where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I studied kinesiology in college and was lucky enough to be able to do an internship with some strength and conditioning coaches, like Donnie Mabe and Benny Wiley. And that would be my first step, is go volunteer your time under a seasoned coach, somebody that's been through it, because they're going to give you all those experiences that they went through. It might be in a condensed form, but that way that, you're able to learn from somebody that's been through these things.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where my journey started. I actually initially applied at UT from McCombs Business School, but I mean, being an athlete my whole life, my secondary choice was kinesiology. After that first semester of kines, I was like, I'm not going to transfer into McCombs anymore.
Okay.
Even with the grades, I'm going to stay in kines. I loved it.
Yeah.
I was already working hands-on and in small groups and stuff like that, and started seeing what these coaches were doing with athletes, not just athletes, but because our kinesiology department, we're also going health and wellness, and I mean, we're using everything from heart rate monitors and all this kind of stuff to and going into the lab, and learning what these things do for people. But that's kind of where the obsession started, was in school, and I was lucky enough, to have that opportunity to go intern. I think without the internship, I would have had to gotten that experience after school for sure. Yeah.
And that's, I mean, Texas obviously has a very long history of winning and producing high-level athletes.
Right.
Even if the teams aren't necessarily winning, like, you still get top-tier athletes.
Yeah. I mean, of course, they're coming in already pretty highly skilled.
Right.
But I will say that you can, the high school game to the collegiate game, no matter what sport it is, changes. And you got to have the performance staff to be able to back it up.
Yeah.
And to continue to grow these kids, because they're coming in 17, 18 years old. I mean, they're still developing.
Right.
So they may have been at the top of their game in high school, but to continue to keep them at the top of their game, you've got to have the best performance professionals in the business, and that's why they're all around the country at schools like Texas and all the other big programs.
Well, and there's not like a shortage of interns, I'm sure, who are trying to go intern for Donnie or Benny over at Tech, right, is where he's at.
Well, he was there.
Oh, he was there.
Well, he's in Abilene now, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just down here on it a couple weeks ago.
With Jeremy. Yeah.
And Danny Amendola.
Oh, yeah.
So he came down, and I was like, oh, that's cool. He's a lot thicker than I thought he would be. Like, on TV, he looks thick, like you see he's muscly, but, like, in real life, I was like, damn, you're pretty, like, you're thick. Like, just man.
He looks unreal.
Yeah.
Kind of does.
It's like an action figure.
I was going to say the exact same thing. He looks like you just poke him in the back and he's going to judo chop.
Yeah. So how did you get the internship? I mean, what set you apart from someone else?
Take you on a short journey, and it was the biggest advice I can give to you is just put yourself out there. You got to go ask. Don't be afraid to ask. I was finding ways. Of course, I had a couple of friends that were already in the athletic department. Some were cheerleaders, some were athletes, that kind of stuff. And luckily enough, through cheerleading, like, my wife, she was a cheerleader. I was kind of recruited by a friend to do some co-ed cheering, and I got to know one of the assistant coaches, Chase Fishback. So shout out to Chase.
Yeah.
He's actually still working here in the Austin area, but he was the one that was like, hey, Matt, this internship coming up in the summer, if this is what you're going to continue to do, this is what's going to test, if this is really what you want.
Yeah.
So he's really the one that got me the foot in the door to go have my interview with Coach Mabe.
And what goes into the internship? I mean, it's you're not handed a clipboard like, here, go work with Ricky Williams, right? Not trying to age you,
right?
You weren't there with him anyway, but
yeah.
It wasn't that simple. It's not like, oh, okay, now you're an intern, you get fed.
Right.
What do you do as an intern?
No, I mean, you come in with the expectation that, not only are you, say, reading or learning when you're not there, but the biggest thing is you're just doing what the coaches are asking you to do. And that I don't mean just racking weights and stuff like that. I mean, like, actually following along with the program, not asking so many questions that you're not trying to answer them yourself.
Right.
The first thing that they told us is, hey, ask yourself the question before you ask somebody else. If you can't, if you haven't asked yourself already, don't ask somebody else, because you can be too much reliant on just ask, and not even try to think for yourself. So that's the first thing. But was really try to embed yourself as a coach, as another coach. I mean, of course, you're not at that level, but you're just trying to assist as much as possible and bust your ass.
Yeah. I think, I just right before you, my last one was with Shimon Ishikawa, who is the sports scientist for the Knicks. Oh, wow. And it's like, he's like, man, I got to the gym every morning at like 3 so I could do my workout, and because otherwise you don't get to do it, right? And then he's like, there's days I slept on the table instead of like driving home and driving back in and out of New York.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like,
the grind is real.
Yeah, and it's like, I think a lot of people, and not to discredit anybody, but they expect like, oh, I'm in the door, now I can coast, or I should be able to go train this guy. I just got my master's in exercise phys. Like, I deserve all these things. Versus, like, you still need to work.
Yeah.
Like, you still need to put your head down and grind.
Yeah, and to all the listeners out there that maybe didn't study kines and all that kind of stuff, yeah, exactly. Like I was saying, a lot of us we've been fortunate enough to go through those rigors and to learn the basics, all that kind of stuff. But there are coaches out there, trainers, however you want to label them, that are absolutely crushing it. That just did not have that background, but they started teaching themselves, started implanting themselves into atmospheres where they could learn. And when you're able to put yourself in a position where you can not only learn but also give something back, whether it's your time, your effort, your energy, then that's and that's why those guys are successful, guys and gals.
Yeah, yeah. And so then you went through and you got a great internship. Obviously, that sets you up to get to the next step, right?
Right.
You keep elevating yourself and taking the next one. MJP's not a slouch facility, right?
No.
They're pumping out.
There's a gap in between there that we missed. So my senior year I took a course for the Essentials book for the NSCA, right?
Okay.
I was lucky enough to get that done while I still had all the basic sciences in my head.
Yeah.
Kim Beckwith, she was, for a while, and she still is a legend in women's strength conditioning. She was one of the strongest women in the world for a couple of years in a row.
Wow.
Drug-free, of course, all that kind of stuff. She's still the powerlifting coach over at Texas. And she's, one of the leaders of the strength conditioning department in Kines. But so she taught that program. So one semester, just literally going over the Essentials book. And then, of course, in between going over like what the strength conditioning industry is like for students, So luckily enough, I took that course, trained under her and her program, and that was the first time. I was a senior in college before I even did a snatch,
Wow.
like an Olympic snatch.
Yeah.
Because before then, as an athlete, I was only doing squats, maybe cleans and presses maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But she was a true, powerlifter and Olympic lifter, so got my experience, with that. But no, right after that, that's when graduation came, and I did another internship. So even though I had this awesome internship with Texas, you've worked with some really great coaches, and I even had my CSCS by the time I graduated.
Yeah.
That doesn't, you still got to go learn. Just like
Right.
you said, you still got to go, just because you think you've made it, you got to go put in more time, go learn more things. I did a 3-month internship at Hit Center Austin under Brett Johnson. So he was my first internship out of school, and he was also my first job out of school besides waiting tables.
Right.
But and Hit Center, high intensity interval, is
Right.
what you're probably thinking. But no, it's just high intensity training is what the Hit stood for.
Oh, okay.
And it was great experience there. That used to be an old franchise. It had disenfranchised, all that kind of stuff. But Brett took me under his wing with a couple other coaches there. 2 of my coworkers, Marcus Cox and Clemente Valdez, who were also some of my classmates at UT. We just learned together for the next 2 years. So after my internship, I worked there for 2 years. We ended up moving up to Cedar Park into a soccer zone. But for a small kind of mom and pop strength conditioning group that Brett Johnson had, I was lucky enough to work with him when he had big names come through there. I mean, he had everything from NFL kickers like Phil for the 49ers. He was a Longhorn.
Dawson?
Yeah, Phil
Oh.
Dawson. Yeah, and and all the track athletes that he sat through there, Natasha Hastings and
UT has good track?
oh, right.
Just kidding. UT's like we don't lose kind of track.
Right. Oh
Yeah.
my, that's all over the world fast. So I was lucky enough to get there, and I was really enjoying my time there. Life brought my fiance at the time, up to Dallas, and Cassie moved to Dallas, and I thought I was still learning, and I still was learning a hit, but I had to take a risk, and it's like, hey, I need to go grow with her.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a shot at going up to Michael Johnson's, and that was a whole different type of speed and development training. So mostly linear and just power and just track, like just straight ahead speed.
Yeah.
Great stuff working with Lance Walker and his crew up there. It was a very short stint while I was there, but super valuable time there. And even when I first got there, it was a lot of free time.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't coming in with a full job, even though you're certified and you've been with some great coaches you've worked with. Even at that time, I'd worked with at least a dozen professional athletes. Doesn't you still gotta
Right.
prove that you can coach it, prove that you can not only coach it but own it. So
And even being a good coach, I think, is the ability to articulate that message across different systems, to different athletes, to different sports. And, starting out at HIT, it's one system.
Yeah.
Being at UT is one system.
Oh, man.
Right? And then moving to MJP, right, is a different system.
Oh,
So
yeah.
being able to take that, even though they're not the same, there's a lot of commonalities.
a lot of crossover.
Right.
Sure.
But, like, being able to be malleable to, because you're speaking for Michael Johnson's Performance Center.
Malleable is a perfect word, and just being adaptive. And there was some things when I switched from UT to HIT, I was like, man, like, I wasn't even thinking about that. And you just had your mind blown, and you're like, why wasn't I doing that? Same thing goes for when I left HIT to go to MJP. It's like, oh man, I could have been doing this one little thing or two little things or three things different that totally changes the way that I coach or the way that this athlete trains in front of me. And the same thing goes for when I transitioned to D1.
Was there that moment? Because I think especially when you're young in your career, there's that I don't like to be wrong, or I'm scared to be looked at like I'm doing something shitty.
Oh yeah.
And you're changing all the vernacular, you're changing the system, and you say it as a mature coach now, where you're like, oh, I look at what they were doing and saying, why didn't I do that? That's a great value add to how I could have been coaching athletes at this place. Versus like, was your first reaction to go, what are they doing? That's not right. This is how you're supposed to be doing it.
Oh, man, absolutely. There was definitely some times when I came into Michael John's Performance, I wanted to show them what I was made of.
Right.
Not just the athletes, but the coaches, the coaching staff there. And I had a pretty heavy strength background as well. And MJP does a ton of speed and power. And I was like, man, I can add some value on the strength side as well as the speed development, because I was working with some tracksters and stuff like that down in Austin. So yeah, there's definitely some times where my head was a little bigger, and I was like, a little resistant at first.
Yeah.
Because your pride's there, and you want to show like, hey, I'm right. I've done my homework, and but then you got to have that mindset that you can always learn differently or grow more from being wrong.
Interesting. So then, I think we've talked about this in other podcasts, but the ability to build a network, right? And it's not about going into these places like you're in 3 prolific facilities, and it doesn't just happen because you're the only resume on their table,
right?
No, there's a lot of like character stuff that goes into this stuff as well. And you being able to go into those rooms and saying like, look, I am forever a student, and I'm here to build what you guys have going on, right? How was it? I mean, how did you get these jobs? Like you're 23 by this point, and you've been at 3 high level, like Texas internship, like that's an internship a lot of people wish could have, right? Then getting to HIT, obviously getting to install immediately into pro athletes and high level athletes, and then going into MJP, like,
yeah.
Did you just know people, or how did that?
It's a mixture of a few different things, but I would say you got to be confident in yourself.
Yeah.
Confidence is a big thing, because I think a lot of reasons why people aren't taking these, opportunities or at least trying to take the opportunities is because they're afraid of not getting it. They're afraid of maybe failing. If I apply for this internship, if I apply for this and I don't get it, like, man, that's just gonna feel terrible. So being confident and going ahead and just starting. You got to start, and you got to get yourself out there, number one. But number two, then you do got to back it up. You got to back it up with what you know, and you don't have to know everything. You don't, and I'll get to more of that later, because you're always like you're continuing to learn, and it's okay in the interview process to show them that you don't know everything. You don't have to seem like a know-it-all going in, and you don't have to seem like you definitely don't want to make them feel like you know more than they do
right
coming in. But
that's a fine line right there.
Oh yes, it is. But at the same time, you definitely want to come in knowing that you can add value, knowing that you value their system too. And that you want to learn from them just as much as they want to benefit from your expertise and your hard work that you're about to put in for them.
Yeah, I think that's very valuable for anybody, no matter where they're at in their career. You could be 10 years in, and I think it's even harder to get yourself to be more open to looking at.
I was going to say, yeah, because being young, sometimes you get the benefit of just of not failing as much.
Right.
So you just kind of have this blind confidence of, I'm going to apply, and I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to have a badass interview, and I'm going to impress some people, and not only that, I'm going to show that I have the ability to also showcase these these performance abilities as well as a coach. But yeah.
So then you went from MJP to D1.
Yes.
Right. And how long were you training at D1 before you took that next role?
So it was about a year. It was about because when they first opened up, it was only one full-time position there, and that was our general manager, and we had a handful of part-time coaches, and I was a part-time coach, and it was kind of their way of seeing like which one of these coaches is really, because the GM was kind of a dual role. The GM was kind of the head coach as well, and they're like, all right, so which one of these coaches can really step in and kind of not just take the leadership, but who's going to really embody our brand and kind of lead the troops.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so then a year of coaching turned into
a head coach position. So which was great. That gave me the opportunity to really take some ownership in the training that was going on in the facility. I got to adjust some strength programs the way I wanted to. Well, just the way that we saw fit to the athletes in our doors. Because we definitely go off the same methodology and the same programs. But if you have a different population in your facility than they do in Nashville or in Tampa or in any other place, then you got to adjust it. So I was really happy to take that ownership. And ownership can really give you so much. Whether you're taking ownership in your own training or a program or of your client's program, extreme ownership, which I dropped that one there.
It's a great book.
Yeah.
It's a great book.
Meant to drop that one there. But taking extreme ownership, that gives you so much strength and power and confidence in going forward and owning anything.
Yeah. Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink, an amazing book about leadership and owning the process.
Yeah, and if you're not a reader, YouTube it.
Yeah.
He's got some powerful messages.
Yeah, or I do audiobooks. It's not what you preach, it's what you own.
Yeah.
Right? I thought that was my biggest takeaway, right? So you can be at the top of the chain, and if something fails down below, it's not that person's fault, it's your fault for not managing expectations accordingly and being able to take ownership. What does that mean? Look at it from a fitness standpoint. What does it mean to take ownership of the programming, right? Because you have a bunch of coaches who are clearly as qualified as you.
Sure.
And I think a lot of people get, especially when it comes to athletes, their shit's the shit that no one's doing, and I'm going to make them the best player possible. What does it mean to take ownership and really manage a bunch of coaches and a bunch of programming? And because it's not just specific athletes. You don't just work with people one-on-one. You also have GPP, you have youth, you have all these other. So what does that mean for you?
So you're taking the ownership. You're saying, this is what I believe is going to work the best for this group or for, like you said, the youth athletes. And I think the head coach usually is the one that has their eyes on most programs at majority of the time. And that's why the head coach kind of oversees the programs in each facility and going forward. But taking ownership in that, if you want to adjust these 2 or 3 things about the program, and then, oh crap, maybe at the end of the cycle it didn't do what you thought it was, then you also take the responsibility of saying, yeah, maybe I was wrong about that. Maybe we added too many supersets, and it just kind of burned everybody on that.
Yeah.
So now we need to reevaluate at the end of the 8 weeks. So taking ownership of when you're wrong as well, not just saying, yeah, your gains are the shit because I was the shit.
Right. That athlete is already the shit. So really, you just didn't fuck him up. So that's why he's a great athlete.
Which nowadays is just as important, but not messing it up.
Yeah. And so then, but you don't just work with athletes, right? You also work with kids. I think that's one I think a lot of people are really scared of. Mm-hmm. Especially like when you first get into training, you're like, ooh, can that kid weightlift? Can they do strength training? And now I think it's becoming more acceptable for them to do.
Yeah.
And not that, and then you see kid powerlifters and there is that variable.
Yeah.
What's the difference between training Johnny Football, who's 7, and Grandma Betty, who's 97?
Oh, wow. Gross movement patterns.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's a big one. But, I like to use this example as much as I can. I feel like the group that I grew up with or the age that I grew up with and the area that I grew up in, we were outside all the time and we played multiple sports. So we had we were always playing something. In the fall, it's football and, then basketball, then baseball, and then track. And so you have a big movement profile. And we weren't being professionally trained in these facilities, these nice facilities that we have nowadays and how all these people are building all this up. But I've noticed that generation, made it was so much easier for us to learn a new sport because we had a bigger movement profile. Mm-hmm. So my biggest thing is not only educating the athlete, but educating the parents on give your kid as big of a movement profile as you can right now. Like, Let him hang from monkey bars. Let him go do this. Mix in some gymnastics. I mean, not every kid's going to be a ball sport kid.
Yeah.
And not every kid is going to love working out either. So you got to find the balance between that and making it fun. And unfortunately, technology has come so long, it's such a far away. Like, we're always stuck in front of a screen somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So for the youth athletes, it's getting them, number one, to enjoy movement. They got to enjoy it first.
Yeah.
Because we've definitely had those athletes or those kids that come in, and the parents are going, he doesn't want to be here today, or
Right.
Or maybe the parents are kind of fibbing, like, yeah, he had a rough day today, or something like that. And so you got to turn it around for those youngsters to just enjoy it first.
And how do you gamify it? How do you?
Yeah, you can. I mean, gamifying it, and you don't have to be cheesy with it either,
Right.
man. You can be real. These kids can see right through you. You get those coaches sometimes that are kind of trying to be a little bit too cheesy with kids, but they see right through that stuff, man. So just be real with the kids, and set the expectations for fun, but also set the expectations like, hey, you're also going to learn some stuff too.
Yeah.
So keep it an even balance. Don't let them think that it's all just fun and play and that they're not gaining anything beneficial out of it. So that at some point they'll start to see, like, oh, this is actually beneficial to what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even if they're not playing a sport, because some kids took their sport off to be able to train with us.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
Yeah, and it's also showing the maturity of the parents too.
Yeah. I think, I was telling CJ, who's one of our strength coaches here, he's got a kid, Jack, who's 11, I think now, and he's been training him for a couple years. And I'm like, it's cool to, like, train Earl Thomas and whatnot and these high-level athletes. But, what's really cool is that you're going to be able to say, like, I started with this kid when he's, like, 10. And then he goes to college and plays a sport probably because he's pretty athletic.
Yeah.
And, and then he comes back to you in the summers and trains, in the off season and trains, and then, like, maybe he gets drafted, right? But now you have an 11-year case study or 20-year case study of an athlete. You're like, okay, did he have the prerequisites to probably be a good athlete before? Absolutely. But, like, here's what he started out as, and then let's look at his journey entirely from 10 years old to 25 years old.
Man, you're so right. You're so right. Again, I've only been in Dallas for 3 years, but I've already seen some kids that were freshmen that are already seniors, going into their senior year, and just where they've moved.
Yeah.
And you're like, this person's going to go to a D1 school, and then they might have a chance to make it in the pros. There was a kind of a coincidence this weekend as we were playing Maryland. The starting center actually trained while I was here in Austin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he was I trained him the last part of his junior and his senior year, Brennan Moore. And he's a senior now at Maryland. I'm like, I'm only 27 years old, and I trained a kid that's about to graduate college.
Yeah.
And he was playing. It was his homecoming game coming back to Austin. So
Nice.
it was kind of neat. But yeah, I'm telling you right now, like, that stuff right there, seeing him go out there to be the captain, because he was the captain for his team for his homecoming game.
Right.
Just seeing stuff like that, or when you see, because you're not every coach is going to see an athlete on TV or just make it big time, but seeing small wins like that, makes it so worth it, because it's impacted that person in a big way.
And you get to be, I think inevitably we all get in this industry because we want to help people.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people who train or want to train athletes or be in that realm, it's, I wasn't quite able to get to that level, but I think I have I can share, right? But you're not just a part of their physical journey. You're also a part of this. You're also a part of their mind,
Their psyche,
who they are as men and women, and who they are, who they become.
Now that you said that, I'll reach back out to one of my other mentors, Coach Tolis. He was my defensive backs coach in high school.
Okay.
He's the head coach over at George Ranch now. He's won a state title over there, but he came from our small little Splendora town, a little 3A football, and now he's running a big-time football program. But he was one of the, him and I weren't super close or anything like that. He was just the first coach that really reached out to me and was genuinely interested in not only my development as a football player, but as an athlete, and then as a man as I was moving on. Mm-hmm. And we only had him for my first 2 years of high school, so I only had him in my freshman and sophomore year. But he instilled, and he said it all the time, and he instilled the work ethic, because that was the first time that we really knew what work ethic truly meant. But just if you can be that person, if you can be my Coach Tullis for somebody else, and that's what I think we're all chasing as coaches.
Well, and even it goes back to the conversation that we had with John out in the lobby about getting that buy-in, right? And how, psychology always trumps physiology,
Yeah.
right, was his comment. And that, you can be the greatest programmer, physiologist in the world, but if your athlete isn't bought into what you're doing and they don't give a shit,
No.
they're not going to do it.
You got to be personable.
Right. So, at the end of the day, something I try to harp on, like, I'm like the least educated trainer in terms of like where, there's not a lot of reason why people should necessarily listen to me at the front of a room. Right. But
Don't give yourself more credit.
well,
Come on now.
I'm just
Come on,
saying, like,
Sam.
I'm not, I can talk some shop, but like,
He knows his stuff.
it's also like, if we're going to go off of like, oh, I don't have a CSCS, I don't have a master's in exercise phys. Shit, I've never taken a chemistry course, right? I was a business major.
Hey, but you know what? Nowadays it's in vogue to not do that and to be successful in this industry.
Right.
So don't say you're behind the curve yet. You might be the new up and coming guys.
I could be, but I think it's also about the character, and it's about getting people to like you, and not like we need to be buddy and you take your athlete out for pizza and beers every night.
That's not what it means.
No, but it's like you do need to have a sense of connection, whether that's you earning the privilege to go work at MJP or get an internship. Like at the end of the day, you can't just be a shitty person and just think that you're the best that ever walked the earth.
No.
Like you got to come in with a humble attitude.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I can point out all the coaches that I've worked with at D1 Dallas. Coach Dennis Connor, Coach Kate Oliver, those guys down there that I worked with. I mean, we would always go back and forth on which certification next.
Yeah.
We did a USAW at our facility. That was the one that we finally got through. But I was always pushing these guys like, hey, go ahead and get your CSCS and all this kind of just to have it and all this kind of stuff because you have that mindset too. But these coaches were able to be real personable with their athletes, and it's showing still. These guys are still working with everything from their 7 to 11-year-old athletes to their pro athletes, and it's not because they had all these experiences that I had or the certifications that I had. They just learned and they were personable and they knew what their athletes needed and they can deliver it.
Yeah, being able to take that information and digest it and make sure that people understand it. Like being a good teacher is the ability to have 60 people learn something the same way, but you might have to communicate it 45 different ways so that way all 60 people understand it, right? I mean, and being able to take complex theory and make it very simple.
Right.
Because your little 7-year-old, Bobby Ray, doesn't give a shit about what his ATP level is doing.
Dorsiflex.
Right. He's like, either I can do this or I can't.
What's up, everybody? Jessica here. Thanks for letting me interrupt this interview with a few announcements. First off, if you haven't checked out our website, you definitely should. It's fitnessbreakroom.com. We have a video version of every VIP interview. We have a bookshelf area with all of our favorite books that can help you in business and just kind of like life in general. We have resources on podcast equipment that we use, fitness events and certifications that are happening around the country. And lastly, you'll find our monthly Fitness Industry Night giveaway prize, which for January 2018 is sponsored by our awesome friends at LifeAid. They're giving one of you a ton of Fit Aid and Focus Aid to help you recover from training and get most smarter. And if you write us a written review and send me a screenshot of that review at jessica@fitnessbreakroom.com, or you can hit me up on Instagram at jessicawebster_, I'll give you an extra entry to win. Plus, I'll give you an on-air shout out on our weekly break room breakdowns. Keep in mind, we're not paid by any advertisers for these giveaways. We are only committed to partnering with companies and people that we love and trust. So the Fitness Industry Night giveaways are a direct thank you from us and our partners for being a part of this awesome fitness community that makes the world a stronger place. Okay, that's it for me. Enjoy the rest of the show, and thanks so much in advance for your reviews and your support.
You got to step away from the training side, and you really took a management role over at D1, and then you got to see the business end of fitness, and on the industry side too.
Sure.
Tell us about what that was like moving away from the training floor full time and stepping in with a.
Well, it kind of happened out of necessity. I think our facility and the owners there and D1. They were in a position where they needed to fill that role pretty quickly, and I think because I was doing a decent job with the athletes and coaching, they're like, Matt, you've been around the business, you've been kind of helping the GM anyways. Let's put you through the training and give you that opportunity to try to run this facility because I had a good pulse on our members, I had a good pulse on our community, and I think that's what a good manager should do is have a pulse on everybody in their building and who's you're kind of the community leader as well as well as the business leader. So I think that's what they saw me as, and that's when I went into it for. And I got to see some sides of the business that I am extremely grateful for having the experience to do and to learn that side of the trade for sure. But you also see that opportunity is always not exactly what you want, all the time. But the experiences were invaluable. I would definitely do it again 100 times over. And I might even go back and do some managing later on. But I think bringing it on this early and having the opportunity to manage at this point in my life and at this age and my experience was a huge undertaking, huge opportunity. And it was something that I eventually had to step away from and let somebody else kind of take the reins. But it was a huge opportunity and great experience.
We talk a lot about, just fitness break room in general. We look at, let's make sure that you're on a track and a path to ensure that you want to keep doing this and being in this industry, right? And so, if you want to look at it, do you want to run a business?
Yeah.
Then opening a gym is a great way to do it because it's a realm you're passionate in, and it's something that you get to be a part of, but you don't get as much hands-on in terms of the programming, the day-to-day, the work with the athletes, the high touch. If that's what you really enjoy, then maybe running a business isn't the best in for it.
Right.
Or if you're like, you know what, I just want to get money in the bank and I just want to elevate my career to say I'm a certain status, or not that that's wrong.
Sure.
But maybe managing is the better route for you because like maybe your best bet or maybe your best skill set is being able to bridge that gap, right? And understand, like sympathize with the training staff about what they're going through and the athletes, but then you're on the administrative side.
Yeah.
Because you have to play both coins.
Yeah, and I would say, if you're kind of teetering between going and opening your own, facility or opening your own business of any kind, please go do it for somebody else first before. I'm just saying, because you want to learn a lot underneath somebody else before you go that route. Because obviously, think about it. I was going into UT to study at McCombs School of Business,
right,
and ended up going kinesiology. That should have been my first, sign right there. I wanted to be on more the hands-on and the movement side, anyways. But no doubt, I think there's an entrepreneur in all of us, especially nowadays. Everybody's kind of trying to have their own brand or have their own style, their own, pretty much their own brand. So I was excited to be able to lead a company or lead a group and learn a lot more of the business side and really get that experience that I probably wouldn't have been able to get very quickly anywhere else. But you have to experience it to know that that's maybe not what you want to do forever.
Yeah.
Or maybe you don't want all of it. Maybe you only want a piece of it. So it's play to your strengths and but don't be afraid to try.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't be afraid to try those
Well,
things.
it's expensive to learn those lessons.
On your own.
Especially if you're on your own,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's not expensive now, but like, if you're out on your own running your own gym, you got, God forbid you get sick or, you have a slow time and like rent's due. Like, these are expensive lessons to think about in the fitness industry.
And if you're on your own and you take a day or two off, the facility feels it.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you're a manager of a facility, if you're out for a day or two, and I mean, even if you feel like you have a solid team around you, even if it's a small group, if you have a small company of maybe less than 10 people, even though that they all may be great supporters and they all maybe work great together, if you are kind of the mover of that company and you're out for a couple of days, God forbid if you're out for a week, you're gonna feel it.
Yeah.
Things are not gonna run the same. So you got to be prepared on what level of hands-on are you going to really be, and what are you trying to be a manager, or are you trying to be an owner that's letting somebody manage it for you?
Which I think is also something where, like, let's say you do flash forward, like I had a successful training career, moved into management, and then moving into ownership. Like, those aren't always the same things either.
No.
And much like when you're, making that transition between trainer, manager, and then manager, owner, right? It's like it can be kind of wearing both hats and trying to figure out, you're getting beat up from both ends.
Yeah.
I always joke with, we're at the age where a lot of my friends are in like the project management and like the director level type realm. And I'm like, it's such a not thankless, that's the wrong way to put it. But like being a project manager is like literally like you're professional, get your ass chewed out person. And you're like, yeah, I get it by my client and I get it by my company. The project's over budget and it's not on time. So like both people are always yelling at you. And so, same thing, like, but now it's your money on the line.
Yeah.
You got to learn all these lessons with D1 paying you.
Sure.
And which, I'm sure you made some mistakes and I'm sure you had some great wins.
Yep.
What's maybe one of the biggest lessons that management, especially for a large, well-known facility, taught you?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, being personable with your coworkers. You know what I mean? Like, because because you're a peer,
Uh-huh.
and then all of a sudden you're their boss, and that totally changes the dynamic, right?
Especially in the same facility.
Oh,
like they didn't have you go somewhere else to go be a manager.
No, exactly. It was within the same facility, and not only that, some of the people that you work for, maybe your same age or maybe they're older than you. So that was one thing that I had to learn how to when it was time to be kind of their leader, and then also when it was time to be like I don't want to say their you don't want to say their peer, but working with them.
Yeah.
So I think that learning that work environment and working that kind of development stage from being a manager was a big portion of it.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, when you're a peer, right? When you're in the break room, right?
Yeah.
And it's dick and ass jokes and talking shit. But then when you step into a manager, people like constantly like,
Yep.
like, oh, can't say that in front of Matt. Might get HR or something like that. Or,
Yeah.
or now it's like, ooh, he has the potential to fire me.
Mm-hmm.
Or even having to have a sit down conversation. It's like, dude, you were late for like the 5th time in a row. Like I know we're boys, but stop fucking up.
Yeah, and that was probably the toughest part of the job altogether is learning where that line is.
Yeah.
And then when can you have that conversation, and how can you keep that relationship not only professional but also great because you were friends before as well. So if you are going to open up your own thing and you hire your friends or you hire people that you know and all that kind of stuff, it's something that you're gonna, I'll say, battle with. Yeah, unless you just have a phenomenal relationship.
Yeah. So being personable, that's the number one thing that
I
they
think,
can do.
being personable and break down those barriers. That's the biggest thing. I think that you can take your leadership or your management role too seriously sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Because a business is serious, of course. You got to do things right. You got to keep the doors open, and you got to keep people paid. And that is a serious thing. But we're all humans. You got to break down those barriers because sometimes I think there was moments where I could have had conversations sooner than they needed to happen. You know what I mean? Like you could have had those conversations a month or two ago before they really needed to come up again.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody maybe felt like I couldn't really talk to them about that. So just be personable, no matter what kind of leader you are. And I think that was the first true leadership role that I'd taken besides being like co-captain of a football team kind of thing.
Right.
The true leadership role of a business. And there was a lot to learn from it, more so than just being personable, but that was a big one.
And I feel like it's not the young person or the brand new employee trainer that's like trying to get to where you are.
Sure.
But it's the peer that was there with you from the beginning that may be on the same level as you.
Sure.
And they might feel overlooked. I feel like that might be the hardest person to manage.
To manage and to exactly. To manage and to make them feel like, hey, you're still part of this team the same way that I am. I'm just taking on a different role.
Yeah. Was there anything special that you had to do to get buy-in or create that respect?
Yeah, I mean, you got to be kind of even though I wasn't coaching as much, you got to be on the grind just as much as they are.
Mm-hmm.
If they see you working hard, they're going to respect it. If they see that you're making moves to benefit them, not only your clients and your customers or whatever you want to call them, if you're also doing things to benefit them as an individual or as a coach, then I think that's what creates the buy-in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really great point.
You got to take care of your peeps.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And don't bite the hand that feeds you either.
That's true.
Right? It's like, it goes both multiple ways, right? Mm-hmm. And, with all the episodes that, we're into now, it's like at the end of the day, every single person, right? Whether you're Kenny Santucci at Solace, New York, or Shimon, or you, or Rachel, or Lisa, it's like every single person has had this mantra of like, don't be a shitty person.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my gosh, and we've all learned that lesson. I think you got to actually go through it to learn it.
Absolutely.
You
got to get a couple right hooks.
We're like,
to
of
the
course.
jaw.
So why would I be a bad person? And then until you actually realize what that, say bad person or just treating people the right way, go by the golden rule, man. Treat it how you want to be treated.
So for you, I mean, when you stepped into the hiring realm, because you hired trainers
Yeah.
as well,
Yeah.
what are some things that you really look for, like a facility like D1, right, where you have the
Yeah.
potential to work with high-end athletes and
And we had hundreds of applications.
hundreds of applications,
time.
right? So what's the difference between Sam Pogue and Jessica Webster and Matt Kite putting in his resume to someone like you, where you're like going, fuck, I've got 200 resumes for 3 open positions, 1 open position.
Right.
How do you choose?
It really comes down to who's going to bring you the most value. I mean, you can have a beautiful resume. I've even turned over overqualified people.
Yeah.
For underqualified people. I say for lesser qualified people is a better term. Because they fit the role better. And I felt like they could bring exactly what that position, what that value needed more. So that was one part of it. And the second part would be, there's definitely a cultural or like a personality fit, I think, to every different place, So how the interview went, how you talk, whether it's a phone interview or in-person interview, just how did that person, dynamic with you? And it, like I don't want to make people nervous when they go into their interviews and stuff like that. Just be you.
Yeah.
I think I saw more of people trying to impress. You know what I mean? Because of course it's an interview. You're trying to impress people. But I think the people that I was more confident with adding to the team were the people that were more realistic during their interview. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They weren't trying to put on a show.
Here's all the certs that I have, or here was my
Yeah, because then that just shows you kind of where their goals are,
Yeah.
or where their head's at. It's not it's not really on the job that you're hiring them for.
And like I think you brought up a super valuable point, like how you fit in with a team,
Yeah.
right? Whether it's baseball, football, you can look at it like if you've already got a star running back, like you're not going to go pick up another star running back because you know what I mean. Like you don't need that many touches, but you do need a dynamic receiver, right? Or on your team, like you might already have the loud, fucking obnoxious trainer, right? Who like that gets people riled up and like the loud one.
Yeah.
But like maybe you need someone that's a little bit more of a connector, like someone that's going to be a little bit softer spoken that the quiet kids can go to and they feel more comfortable with, or a female, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah. So I think that knowing the needs of the facility, if you know the needs of the facility and you can fill those needs, communicate that. I'm not saying don't be something that you're not, but go in there and sometimes even ask them what they need. I mean, turn the interview around too. 'Cause you're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you. I mean, I've had some coaches that I was interviewing that I tried calling back, and they found a job somewhere else or something like that because they just maybe felt like it wasn't a fit for them as well. So that happens, and you could be at an amazing facility like D1, and some people, if they don't have a good interview, they want to go somewhere else.
Yeah, which is super important too.
Yeah.
Right? It's like it's expensive for you and expensive for them. Like time is the most valuable asset that we all have.
We trade it for money. Yeah.
Right. And sometimes not very much.
Yeah.
Like especially when you're young. But going back to that, like going in and volunteering, right? I mean, was there a process? Like, yeah, you had official interns, right? But like if I showed up in Dallas, I was like, hey, can I just volunteer here? Or can I just shadow? Can I just clean the gym? Like, is that valuable for like someone like a place like you?
It can be if you just need the manpower. There's some places that just pump a ton of volume of people through their place and they need help. But I think at that point, you got to find out if that employer or that person that you're going to genuinely cares about helping somebody new come in. Because I think that's where you want to get in. You want to get in with somebody that's actually wants to help the new up-and-coming coaches. Don't go into a position or to a place where they just care about their bottom line.
Yeah.
I mean, because yes, that's important. I mean, you got to stick your head in where you can get in and
Totally.
and learn. Don't get me wrong. I'm all about just getting in where you can and learning. But at the same time, if you have a choice and which we all have a choice about where we go and what we do, if you can find a place that actually will put in, or not just put in the effort, but cares about the development of the incoming people, then that's great.
Yeah. I think that's a good point too. Like, don't just go volunteer for some place that, like, if you're a power lifter, right? Like maybe going to MJP may not be the best place for you to go intern, right? Or volunteer even because they don't have powerlifting there.
Right.
So like, and maybe you're trying to do it because you can learn, which it always comes back to the why, right? If you're like, I'm in this zone and I'm very comfortable in this powerlifting space, but I need to learn more about linear speed development, then like what a great way for you to go and start that is to go ask to volunteer or shadow a session or volunteer. But like if you want to go powerlift and that's all you think is valuable, you just do it because it's a sexy facility.
Right.
Right. Well, now it's not valuable for you or them.
No.
You're just going to be mad. They're going to be mad, and inherently can ruin your reputation.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
You hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
I mean, some people can, I mean, this is a small industry.
It is. It's a small industry, and but you hit it on the head earlier with like Simon Sinek, the why. Know your why.
Yeah, that was a great book as well.
Sorry, I like dropping these for all you readers out there.
Yeah,
so.
no, it's good. What are you reading right now?
Oh man, I'm about to start. It's actually in my bag, but it's oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember the guy's name. But it's essentially how to kind of reinvent. If you want to reinvent yourself or anything like that, like not that I'm actually looking to change or anything like that, it's huge, but just learning how to take a situation, like if your life's changing somewhere, whether it's the end of a job or start of a new job or end of a relationship, start of a new relationship, maybe you're moving, you get a chance to reinvent yourself in some ways.
Yeah.
If you're going to a new place, what do you want to be known for? And so like that grabbed my attention when I saw that. I was like, like, that's pretty neat. I want to know, like, what's the mindset? How do you train that? Because how do you train an athlete to think like that, going from one team to another team? They may have had a not so good, persona over here, or how they were looked at over here. How can you reinvent yourself when you go to another team? It's killing me, the name of it. I can literally pull it out of my bag right there.
Yeah, pull it out.
Yeah,
okay,
sweet.
We can pause. Just
It's a funny thing because I'm still on the first chapter.
Yeah, we're real casual around here. We're in gym clothes. We just got done working out, so we're a little sweaty.
Oh yeah, that actually might be in my other bag, but it's oh well. But it's I guarantee you when I say the name of it, it'll pop up. But,
Yeah, it's good. Is that something you do a lot of? Is like personal development reading?
I actually don't read a ton. I wish I read more. I wish I had time to read more actual like books. But and it's so funny. I have a stack in my office at home. I say my office on my bookshelf of like 6 books that I've started but didn't finish. You know what I mean? So I wish I had more time to read, but I think I get the big pictures of a lot of books before, and if I feel like if I love it, I'll finish it, of course.
Yeah.
But I'm a little bit ADD, I think. I think I started reading on different topics, then I'm like, oh, that looks cool too. I'm going to read that. So I don't read as much as I'd like to, and I don't think it's not 100% necessary anymore. People used to always think like, man, you got to at least read 12 books a year, like one a month kind of thing. And I agree that it does get you out of thinking the same way, get you thinking differently. But so can just going and taking a trip somewhere.
Totally.
And going and visiting a different gym. So if you want to substitute reading, just go experience something different.
And that plays a big role as well. And, I think reading is great. And that's why I switched to audiobooks, is because I found myself in the same boat. Like, it's not a recovery thing for me where some people like really recharge by reading, sitting on the couch and reading a book.
Right.
And for me, it's not that. Like, I'll either fall asleep or I get distracted. But like audiobooks, like I don't even have a long commute. Like my commute to work is 4 miles, right? But like I put it on when I'm going to work and coming home from work, and there's 20 minutes each day, and I listen to the books at like 1.5 times speed, and it's just so that way I can hear it, because like you're not highlighting, you're not taking notes,
Right.
But like literally, if I can hear just a nugget.
I just know you, and I'm thinking like you can listen to that fast. I bet you.
Yeah, right. I mean, I talk that fast. I run that fast. I just operationally, I'm like always on the go.
Awesome.
But this year, I set a goal. Like one book a month was my acceptable. Like, all right, shit's going on. 2 books a month is your realistic goal,
Sure.
right? The goal that you're trying to achieve. And then 4 books a month is my stretch goal.
Nice.
But I'm on an airplane a lot, so like I do like hammer out books this year. And it's not that it's like I remember every single thing, but if I take away one nugget
Nuggets
of
is what I was gonna
information
say. Oh my
of
gosh.
each book, then it's a true win.
Yeah.
The same thing with seminars. I get to take a lot of fitness seminars, and sometimes it's hard to keep it all going.
You
right?
can't digest all that information
No.
all the time and store it. We're not meant to store all
No.
that. We're meant to store the things that impact us, right? And just like you said, nuggets, man. If you can take these nuggets and all of a sudden, your experiences at 4 different places, and you put all those nuggets together, even some of them might even cross over, it just paints you an even more clear picture of what you're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So, being able to, take that information you hear and give it back, and even for yourself, like reinventing yourself, like you're saying, you can do no matter where you're at in your career. And I think it's important, like, for me, I'm a former meatheady powerlifter, and now I work for On It, and I do this like unconventional stuff, but like how does that play into what I do now? Like,
Right.
and I reinvented myself from just a trainer to now I'm on the more strategic side.
Mario Alonso is the author, by the way. Just came to me when you said it.
Mario Alonso.
Yeah, so he was a Harvard guy. I
Gotcha.
was just trying to remember his name before I threw
Well,
it.
those Harvard guys are stupid anyway.
I don't know.
Right, that's why I didn't go there. Just too smart for that.
Right.
Clearly. So now you're reinventing yourself, and you just transitioned. You're now no longer doing the management side, and found that you felt more attachment and more value in the connection and the interaction with the athletes. And
With athletes and with coaches too.
Yeah.
I think, the coaching part, and every time I got back onto the turf or into the weight room, that once or twice a week or maybe once or twice a month sometimes, I was pumped that day. I was just excited. I even would get my own motivation to go back and to do more stuff on myself,
Yeah.
And I was like, this is exactly why I got in the industry. And it was just more fulfilling in those sort of ways. So, you can learn from me or go through it yourself, but just find out what you truly love. And if you're finding that fulfillment out of training, or if you're finding the fulfillment out of the strategic planning of the business, whatever your fulfillment is where you need to try to put in more chips.
So what does it mean to coach coaches? What does that do for you?
Man, I've had coaches coach me on not only the career side, or what to do and just kind of giving you advice, but coaching coaches, all those nuggets are I don't want to say shortcuts, but the things that you wish you would have learned sooner about a squat or about a plyo or about a sprint stance start or even how to communicate that with the athlete more effectively or more simply.
Yeah.
So I think that's the coaching of coaches is my motivation for that is to give coaches a little bit, get through the weeds a little bit more and just try to paint a more clear picture. Not I can definitely nerd out and get scientific on a lot of things, but I feel like a lot of coaches they don't want just the answer. They do want the reason why. But I think if you can help them kind of navigate that, you're being a huge help for them.
Absolutely. Have you read Brett Bartholomew's Conscious Coaching yet?
Yes, actually, he's going to be on our training panel call tomorrow.
Is he? Nice.
B1, yeah.
I saw Brett at the Central Virginia Sports Performance Conference.
Great book.
And I haven't read. I just bought it, but I heard him speak, and I told him Brett, I listen to a lot of speakers and a lot of education, and you might be one of the best that I've ever heard.
Yeah.
So if you guys haven't heard or seen Brett Bartholomew, check out Conscious Coaching. Check him out. He's literally one of the best humans in this industry. And so we'll get him on soon as well. He's going to be at the UT Performance Summit that Donnie's hosting in January.
I'll be there.
Yeah, and I think Donnie had invited me to speak.
Oh, nice.
So I think Jeremy and I are both going to be speaking at that.
Sick.
And I think Brett's going to be speaking at that as well because I've been trying to bring him in here as well. And to be able to just share that with the community. So
yeah,
look for him. We'll get him on here as well. But it's I think it's great. Matt and I, he texted me a couple days ago that he was going to be in Austin for the Texas-Maryland game. And, sorry.
Bad memories again.
Already bringing it up. UT fans are like, fuck, stop talking about it.
We could just talk about the Aggie loss.
The Aggie loss to UCLA.
That made the weekend a little bit better.
Everybody in Austin's happy, at least somewhat. But that, it's not like we had this long conversation planned. It was just a text message, but we chat on a somewhat regular basis, not daily by any means. What are you wearing? He gets those occasionally from me. Sometimes. Cassie gets mad. Who's this guy?
1 o'clock in the morning. Why is he texting you?
And why is he just asking, are you up? Doesn't he live in Austin? I don't know. I'm in Dallas. But, it allowed us to, sit down and have a conversation. And knowing that you already have this great information to share with this new audience, and be able to, you've had such a unique journey. What do you think has been one of the telltale or the monikers of your career thus far that's really shaped who you are today?
Oh, wow. I got to say it's people, man. It's coaches.
Okay.
I mean, you're not always going to get the coaches that care.
Totally.
They're going to get bad coaches too. But when you do find the coaches that care, and they're giving you a little bit of motivation, or not just motivation, but also direction, try to take it as much as you can and feed it right back to the coach, even if you're a coach, right? So other coaches or other people that have been in the industry, I think I have to give all the credit to them, because without taking experiences that they went through there's no way that I can even have an inkling of my experience.
Yeah.
So just try to see the experiences that other coaches have gone through, and then also when they do try to give you something, like, be all ears.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And I'm going to reframe that same question because I want them to hear it again.
Sure.
But I always wrap things up with what's your piece of advice to a brand new trainer getting into this industry that they can do to succeed?
Man, brand new trainer into this industry.
See, I just got my CSCS. I finished school.
Right.
I got my NASM. I want to be a trainer.
Right.
What's someone who's got a very great reputation and obviously a strong background and history in terms of success so far?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously more to come. But what's that nugget you can give them?
So you're gonna have success and you're gonna have some failures. That's gonna go with your clients and with your business. But you gotta have that strength coach mindset. You just gotta keep plowing through. Life's the same way. I think that's a lot of reason why people love sport and training is because there's undulations, right? My biggest advice is if you truly love what you're doing, there's gonna be times that it's gonna suck, and just stick it through, and be organized as much as you can. And you're not always gonna be organized. Like some of the most, best coaches that I've known, their office is just crazy. Yeah, their office is crazy. That's not what I mean, but just be organized in the mindset of where your next step is and what your steps are for the next coach.
Nice.
Or for the next client, rather. Yeah.
So, obviously, you're in some next steps right now.
Right.
You transitioned out of being primarily as a manager and even training all the time at D1.
Right.
Right. And you're focusing more on the development of their coaches, which is your new involvement with them.
Right.
What are you doing now for your new next step?
Man, so that's exactly right. I haven't had, it's been 3 years since I've had this kind of time on my hands. So not only tuning my body back into the tool that I want it to be again, which has been fun. We had a nice workout before we started today. It was great.
Are you saying that when you moved to be a desk jockey in the fitness industry, you still don't work out like 3 times a day?
No, we definitely saw the changes there. But no, I think I'm taking that time, but I'm also taking the time to really know what it is that I want to do for others. Not just for myself. I definitely want to do some things. We all have that entrepreneurial spirit. I do want to work with some other people and with other groups as well. But what I'm doing is I'm sharpening my mind, I'm sharpening my body, and just spending time with family. So if you're in a hiatus like I am right now, or not say hiatus, like the transition period rather. You're always learning anyways, but use that time to really plan. There was a book I read, a while back, one that I actually read all the way through, Game Plan for Life by Joe Gibbs. You basically, if you don't have a plan, you plan to fail. So you got to have a game plan, and that was, if you like a quick read or something that's not too cerebral, if you want to just kind of get a little bit more of a light read, but it's on like really game planning, and just always having the big picture in mind. Game Plan for Life was a good one by Joe Gibbs.
Okay.
He was a coach for the Redskins. He also owns Joe Gibbs Racing for NASCAR. But I would say that is Game Plan for Life is if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So where can people find you? Social media, websites, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, what's the easiest way to get in touch with you or find out what you're doing?
Instagram, Coach Matt Kite. You can find me in Dallas doing workouts and in all the parks as well. But I would say my Instagram, or I'll have a Squarespace website up soon as well for my own brand.
Okay. Or you can have us help you out with it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's true.
Whatever else. So thank you very much for joining me. We really appreciate having you on the show.
That's what I meant to say.
Yeah. I'm just testing him, right? No, nothing wrong with Squarespace. But thanks very much for joining us. It was a pleasure to have you down in Austin and being on the Fitness Break Room podcast.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again for listening to the Fitness Break Room podcast, everybody. You can follow us on Instagram at Fitness Break Room. And if you're looking to enter our monthly fitness swag giveaway, you can visit our website, fitnessbreakroom.com, and all that info's on the homepage. Hundreds of dollars worth of awesome stuff, so I wouldn't miss that. And then you can even subscribe to this podcast on iTunes and leave us a review if you're digging what we're bringing you. That would be awesome and very helpful. Okay, guys, have a beautiful week. Stay strong, and always look out for the little guy.
Eyes in the skies.